Andrew Wilson, king of olive jar openers, debater of OnlyFans models, measurer of Muhammad's manhood, and occasional orthobro, is leading his unsuspecting followers straight into the wide open arms.
I asked this guy a direct question through a super chat, which goes into his pocket. I asked him a direct question. I said, what was it? I said, why are we obligated, or something like this? Why are we obligated? Oh, I said this. If Israel can defend itself on its own, why are we obligated to help? And he just lost his shit, this guy. He was all, he took my money, and the first thing he said is, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's what he said. Tim Pool takes money from foreign governments and has a middling IQ. Well, yeah, he's just, I don't know what he's doing, dude. He's just like living out the last part of the video game or something.
Of a nuclear antichrist. You heard me correctly.
By the way, there was a guy named Peter W. who's been a follower for a long time, okay? I wanted to bring up a chat that I saw. Sometimes I watch the stream back because I miss a lot of the chat, and I love the chat. It's like one of my favorite things. And so I took a picture of it because I wanted to read it on stream. Peter W., if you're still listening and you fake left, he said, unsubscribe, because we got into the necessity of a true church. Now, when you bring up the necessity of a true church, Christ's true church, which is a very respectable position to try to affirm and defend. I respect people who argue that they're in the true church, because what else would you be arguing? I'm in a pluralistic, not pseudo-true church? I mean, what is this? Anyway, Peter W. He says, unsubscribed.
Stop whining.
He says, the perverse claim by these YouTube ortho thugs that they are the exclusive church is too much to tolerate. That, sir, is an example of a weak bitch-ass so-called Christian. I mean, if you were a Christian and you truly believed in Christianity, and you believed there was such a thing called the church, can you imagine virtue signaling against people who actually at least had the wherewithal and the ability and the courage and the conviction to say, no, I actually do believe there's a true church. It's too perverse. Okay.
If Andrew Wilson is successful, we will witness the rise of an antichrist armed with nuclear weapons. People keep making fun of Andrew because he couldn't open a jar of olives. The man's about to open a jar of nuclear antichrist and pour it all over us. Millions of lives will be lost. Maybe yours, maybe mine.
What are you talking about?
Maybe Mike Winger's.
I know he's like half comedic. Like he does like a comedy cadence, but it's not funny. You know what I mean? He's like the Christian apologist of who's that little short Jewy guy on Fox? Who has a show?
All thanks
This is like one of those monologues, like a Fox News monologue.
To Andrew Wilson. And I'm about to prove it.
Greg Gutfeld. He's like Greg Gutfeld, but for apologetics.
Using Andrew's airtight logic. I strongly suggest you pay close attention lest you join him in aiding and abetting a nuclear antichrist. In his debate with the apostate prophet on whether Christians should support Zionism, Andrew laid out what he considered his most important.
How did this take how many years? This is a day ago. How did it take this long to make a video? I mean, how long ago is this debate? One church question, this is hard teaching. Who can accept it?
Argument.
This is too much. One true church? That's it. I've had enough. Christ established one true church? This is perverted. I'm out of here, Jimbob. Unfollow, unsubscribe.
My last argument is the most important. It combines two arguments together for the sake of time. This argument focuses...
Two arguments together, sake of time. Sake of time. Two arguments.
...is on the biggest ought, not for...
They already did a 6-hour Cope stream. I know. What is this? Did he go... I think maybe he was like, you know what? That 6-hour Cope stream was not good. We had a lot of people, you know, going back at us about this. And by the way, the new catechumen AP making very broad claims about, let's say, an Orthodox position on Zionism, both politically and religiously, definitely had people barking back in the chat. So it didn't go, the Cope stream did not go well for them. And so I think this is David Wood, without all the dirt and the pushback, got to do his own produced video of this without the other goblin guy getting in the way.
...for Christians and requires a preface. The first preface is that Israel refuses to disclose if it has nuclear weapons and will neither confirm nor deny if they do, nor allow any inspection of them if they do. Our own CIA has confirmed they do, but they don't disclose it.
Israel neither confirms nor denies having nuclear weapons, but it's widely believed that Israel has somewhere between 100 and several hundred nuclear warheads.
I still don't even believe. I know this is a really dumb, often seen as a dumb take, but I'm still extremely skeptical of the existence of such things. You know, honestly, when you look at military development, just like electronics and computing development, everything gets smaller and more precise and specialized. The targets for things become more smaller and specialized. So this weird investment of like total obliteration in a world that's seemingly connected, more connected than ever before, it seems like a disadvantage. It seems like counterintuitive to the actualization of what's often conveyed visually as an absolute destruction of a place. It just doesn't make sense. It makes it unlivable. Supposedly it makes it unlivable. So you can't go in and even crony up with Halliburton or whatever BlackRock today, I guess, would be the equivalent. You cannot team up with them and make things happen immediately. Like war and destruction, you can work hand in hand with the people who are going to rebuild, right? We're going to rebuild the society, smart cities, smart countries. So this, like, the whole narrative of nukes are so stupid. Like, I still don't even grasp, like, even if they were real, they wouldn't be the best choice for military efforts. Almost never. I can't see a scenario in which a nuke is the best option if it's contrasted with every other procedure, weaponry we have today. Intelligence, subversion, turn off the internet, shut off the water. What is this?
So,
we're like living in the 80s.
If someone, an antichrist, for instance, were to seize control of Israel, he or she or Z would most likely end up with a nuclear arsenal.
Second, the Israeli government works hand in hand with the Temple Institute, an American event.
Wait a second. Did he just say if Americans, if my 9-year-old daughter doesn't support Zionism, then other scary people have nukes? That's the argument?
Evangelicals, also there's
I'm sorry.
an organization called CUFI, or Christians Unified for Israel. CUFI has 10 million members, and Israel doesn't even have 10 million citizens.
Kaiser says, too bad I'm broke. I actually have a lot of input here without a lot of experience. You're making an astute observation. You mean about nukes themselves, Kaiser?
CUFI
I'll read any of your things if I can see them.
He spreads the false heresy of dispensationalism and hosts charismatic doctrine heresy as well. By Rid Van's own...
Carl 45 at $5. Jimbob, off the current topic, but long short story, I am no longer convinced of Sola Scriptura. What do I do now? Go to Divine Liturgy to your nearest Russian or Eastern Orthodox Greek church. Carl, thank you for that. Get your butt into Divine Liturgy, experience it, hang out after for coffee, talk to some people. Thank me later.
own faith, he knows these are heresies. CUFI is on over 300 college campuses and growing. Their stated goal is to educate millions of Americans on these heresies, according to their own website, quote, through our 16 social media accounts, websites, blogs, daily briefs, to bring in groups of pastors and next generation influencers and students.
I actually don't like when Andrew talks so concisely and fast. I wish his opening really was just like, you know what CUFI is? Take a look at CUFI. You won't believe it. Won't believe your eyes. It's true. It took like 20 minutes.
To Israel every year. Guys like Charlie Kirk and, dare I say,
Charlie Kirk? Hi, guys. As long as it's done legally.
Van and David Wood and others, to quote, those would be the types of influencers who would be their target. Not saying that CUFI paid for any of that. I'm just saying that would be the target.
After hearing Andrew's terrifying warning about the sinister organization that's targeting AP and me, I went to CUFI's website. Under mission, we have, as the largest pro-Israel organization
and things like this. Things
in the United States, with over 10 million members, Christians United for Israel, CUFI, is the foremost Christian organization educating and empowering millions of Americans to speak and act with one voice in defense of Israel and the Jewish people. CUFI's diversity across political, ethnic, generational, and denominational lines maximizes our impact in communities.
This is the real CUF. Bro, you guys think it's an accident? This is called the CUF. This is the real CUF, bro. Look into it. You think it's an accident that just as they launched the CUF narrative, that it coincides with the other CUF narrative that everyone else is looking away from? Bro, it's a distraction, bro. Wake up!
In the media, on campus, and in our nation's capital. CUFI is committed to confronting indifference and combating anti-Semitism in all its forms, wherever it may be found.
Wow, that's just beautiful. I should have did the violin music. Yeah, let's do it again.
Wherever it may be found. CUFI is committed to confronting indifference and combating anti-Semitism in all its forms, wherever it may be found.
So it's social justice warriors. It's literally social justice warriors.
Christians from various denominations uniting to combat anti-Semitism? What could be more wicked and heretical, said the online alliance of Groypers, Orthobros, Jihadis, and Candace Owens.
What? That's totally a straw man. What a wicked little neckbeard. You are literally the apologetic neckbeard. What? Notice how he just defines something as good and doesn't tell me how it's good. If it means inclusivity and general loyalty to, let's say, a Jewish ethno-state that is not even near us, if you're against that, you're so bad. It's like, what? Like, why should I have an investment in keeping Japan Japanese? You think if I take a position, well, I don't think me and my family and the rest of society and my brothers in Christ should really have any investment in maintaining the ethnocentric power of Japan and its dealings with the rest of the world. Suddenly I'm, what? If there was a CUFI why isn't there a CUFI for Japan, dude? Christians Unified for Japan, a CUFJ. Why isn't there CUFJ?
Fine, but this is what they want. They want to assist with the fulfillment of biblical prophecy to bring about a new false Messiah and usher in an Armageddon. Not kidding.
CUFI United for Islam, yeah.
They're trying to usher in an Armageddon? I'm getting ready to take a closer look at CUFI's policy.
What?
At Christians United for Israel, we are committed to Israel's strength, security, and sovereignty. To this end, we stand with the decisions of the democratically elected government of Israel and work to support the U.S.-Israel relationship and safeguard the Jewish state's right.
This guy is so disingenuous. Is he this retarded? Does David Wood, is he actually this dense that if someone makes a claim about the fullness of behavior and stances about an organization, that the fullness of their tentacles and what they're doing would be reduced inside the policy on their website? Are you really this retarded or bad faith, David Wood? Well, look at here. It says right here on their thing. Imagine using this for BLM, where you're like, BLM, has some, influence from Marxism and all these like different worldviews that clearly have an end goal, and you can't separate these things. And if you look at it from a broad scale or even a granular scale, you'll be able to connect the pieces, right, of these things and make sense of it. And then David Wood goes, oh yeah, Jimbob? Well, I just pulled up the website and at policy it says nothing about it. Okay, retard.
Right to defend itself. To be fair, I don't agree with this policy. They say, we stand with the decisions of the democratically elected government of Israel. All their decisions? I wouldn't make a blanket statement about agreeing.
This is standard moon landing believer logic. Yeah, it's like saying like, oh, have you ever looked into what else the CIA was doing, right? With like entertainment or culture creation is really wild once you look at it. And then David Wood's like, well, I just brought up the CIA policy page and its mission statement. It says nothing like that in the mission statement. I mean, dude, you look more and more Down syndrome the more I stare at your face.
With the decisions of any government made up of mere human beings. But let's be serious here. Does CUFI sound like a group that's obsessed with ushering in an Armageddon?
Not if you just read one statement on. Do you think they're going to include that on their page, David Wood? You know what it is like? It's like a person that I'd be willing to hit.
Andrew,
generally they're just happy people. You know, they just want popsicles and just do fun things. You never want to hit one though.
Made them sound like a doomsday cult.
Now, the Temple Institute's goal in Israel, using both private and Israeli state money, is to rebuild the third temple and name a Messiah, which Christians know is a false Messiah.
The Temple Institute is an organization that wants to build the third temple, but they aren't trying to name a Messiah. The only source I've seen for that is Andrew Wilson's Trust Me, Orthobro. They don't even seem like an exceptionally large group based on their videos.
Wow, look at that.
And there are lots of other religious Jews who reject their views. So, why am I supposed to think that this is going to lead to an antichrist?
Right now, this second, major personalities on the right, such as Charlie Kirk, most of the Daily Wire, even perhaps David Wood and Ridvan themselves, who I like, know for sure that any Messiah...
That's a fail. Andrew, fail. Liking David Wood. Fail. L's. I actually don't like David Wood. I think he's a total... He's like a dick that doesn't earn to be a dick. Like, I can be a dick. Andrew's a dick. But you have, like, that has to be counteracted with something. It's like you can't be just a dick. Kunk $10. So pleased you are finally baptized. May our forgiving Creator show mercy on your weak shoulders and rage issues. Welcome, brother. Thank you for that. I mean, that's the first thing, in my lifetime confession, Kunk, I started with. I said, look at these shoulders. You kidding me?
By Israel will be antichrist. They know it.
Suppose AP and I and others don't believe that Israel is on the verge of naming some Messiah.
Now, what if Andrew just didn't even go that far? if he didn't go as far as the red heifer and the third temple and ushering in some sort of weird freaking dispensationalist, end times prophecy or whatever. Even the fact that a nation is mostly not just atheist or like secular, but like actively anti-Christian, actively rejecting Christ, actively. The question of whether we still love those people is different than the question of love equals loyal support, buttressing their entire, structure, facilitating their own. It's like saying, like, don't you love all of the sinners? Why aren't you donating to their fake churches? Don't you love them? Why aren't you donating? Wait, listen, don't you love Marty Leeds? Why aren't you donating? Why don't you have blind, loyal, monetary, and national support to the Gnostic Academy of Marty Leeds?
Yeah. And so we don't even think about it. But maybe we should think about it. After all, we have an elegant conspiracy theory from Andrew Wilson.
Unbelievable. They are so lucky no websites in WW2. You can't... Yeah, there's no websites. You can't send troops. Look, he just wants unity in Germany. That sounds like a bad thing. Like what? We went to the website of the Pentagon, and it turns out on the website of the Pentagon, it doesn't say anything about this. It doesn't say anything about paying, it doesn't say anything about the Air Force joining with Top Gun, the movie. Not on their website, anyway.
Here's the recap.
So to recap, the supposed secular Zionist government is giving money to the religious Zionists in Israel and get American support to do this with both American government money and direct aid, with mega preachers like John Hagee leading the charge in America with CUFI to back this endeavor to usher in antichrists. So, Ridvan, I will see any argument you make for why Christians ought to support Zionism, and I will raise you...
Oy.
One antichrist as not.
So, the basic reasoning is, if you support Israel's right to exist and defend itself...
No, dude, even that is wrong. That's even not what Zionism would mean for an American, dude. Notice how they rephrase this. This is all a trick. That's like the Black Lives Matter trick. Like, what? You don't think Black Lives Matter? Well, no. You're conflating the headline of what the organization is saying with the actuality of what it looks like to support it. So David Wood says, support the right for Israel to exist or whatever, right? Okay. What? Who said anything about that? I never argued Japan doesn't have the right to be Japanese and protect its culture and defend its nation. That is not the same claim as whether or not Christians should actively support. Two different statements, you little snake. The statement of whether or not you're totally fine with them just existing as they are, and whether or not you're compelled as an ought claim as a Christian to actively support. Action, dude. Such a snake. So dishonest.
You're supporting the rise...
You weasel. You little neckbeard weasel. You look like a Down syndrome weasel. It's like weasels don't even get Down syndrome.
...of an antichrist. As a Christian, you shouldn't support the rise of an antichrist.
What? Even if you took antichrist out of the equation, being fine with someone existing or as an ethno-state or whatever, fine, go ahead. You can point to all parts of the world where that's the case, okay? Are you... Take some random African country or whatever, right? Some random one you never even hear of, right? But like, do you support their existence to exist? Do you support their right to exist? What's your position on Namibia? No, they can exist. Good luck. What do you mean, good luck? You're not going to tailor your foreign policy and all of your spending and make laws in different places, in different states, on different college campuses that you can't actually question the loyalty program of Namibia, however you pronounce it? Wait, you don't support their right to exist? What a trick. I see right through it. Weaseltard.
Therefore, you shouldn't support Israel's right to exist and defend itself.
Defend itself. If I go on a safari, David Wood, and I see an antelope, and I go, hey, look, it's about to get chased by a lion. Let's see what happens. Am I supporting its right to defend itself? Yeah, I am. Sure, I am. I mean, it's not going to last, but I'm certainly behind it doing what it can. I'm not going to intervene with it doing what it can. Notice how that's a different claim than whether you should intervene. Suddenly, the right, supporting one's right to defend itself includes definitionally that they have the right for our support to defend itself. Well, that's not even a right to defend itself. That's like saying, do I have the right to my neighbor's defense to my stuff? That's like saying, like, someone breaks into my house and I have the right to my neighbor's defense systems. As if my neighbor says, sorry, I really like my guns and I don't want to give you one. I don't even want to sell you one. And David Wood's all, yeah, but are you denying my right to exist and defend myself? The neighbor's like, no, you totally have the right to defend yourself. Good luck. Dummy. Are you an actual retard, David Wood?
This is very strange reasoning, especially...
No, your reasoning is strange and stupid.
if you don't lump everything together like Andrew keeps doing.
No, dude, you just got... that's all... Honestly, I want to watch the rest of this, but this is literally all that needs to be said about your weaseling. Is that your little word tricks of defining things. Right to defend itself versus has a right to our resources. Totally different. Totally different things, dude.
Let me break this down for you. Jews are currently not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. Around half of Israelis believe that Jews should be allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. And there are both religious and secular reasons for this view. There are religious Jews who want to pray on the Temple Mount. There are non-religious Jews who don't want to pray on the Temple Mount themselves, but they don't like the fact that religious Jews aren't allowed to pray there. Everyone combined, around 50% think Jews should be allowed to pray on the Temple Mount.
Great. What does that have to do with an American citizen? You prick. Rational Logic says, Jimbob, for Orthodox Christians, supporting Israel and the Jews honors the biblical roots of their faith in the land of the Christ. No, that's not what Israel means under the Orthodox view, Rational Logic. So just, go study or something. I don't know what to tell you.
Around 30% of Israelis want the third temple to be built. Here again, there are both religious and secular reasons. There are religious Jews who want a temple. There are secular Jews who want Jews to have authority over the Temple Mount.
That's great, David Wood. What does that have to do with Andrew's argument about what Americans and Christians generally should hold as a position in regards to those people working out their little Mount Temple resolution?
What percentage of Israelis want to build the third temple and name a Messiah?
It doesn't matter.
Hamas website says their mission is to defend themselves and spread the word of their prophets like Jesus.
That's right.
David should support them.
That's right. It's on their website. Thank you, Vagine. Let's say that it was only 2%. 2% of all the people, all the rabbinicals, it was only 2% that actually held a position on manifesting and ushering in the new antichrist, the red heifer. Let's just grant it, okay? What does that have to do with whether or not Christians should support Zionism? What does it have to...
I have no clue, but it doesn't seem to be a huge percentage. In other words, the percentages of supporters drop significantly with each additional step. What percentage of Israelis support Israel's right to exist and defend itself?
Those books are so big.
Vast majority.
Yeah, those are big. They must be... If those are like 4 feet behind them, those books are 4 feet tall. The hell? What, does he use his legs to read those?
What percentage
What, does he sit on the book?
of Israelis support the right of Jews?
Do you know about the beautiful Orthodox tradition during Easter called the Holy Fire that takes place every year? Yeah, what does that have to do with anything, dude? What the hell does that have to do with a position on Zionism, rational logic? Stop it. Stop it, please. I'm bringing Becky. What? Alter Void, $10. What the F is he even talking about? He's not making any arguments. He's actually dumb. He's a massive channel who's actually dumb. Oh, is that surprising? No, it's not surprising. What was he even talking about? I have a better idea. If they want us to die for them, then become our territory. Yeah, let's take over. Why can't we just take over Israel? Why can't we take over Israel? I think this came up in the debate, if I remember correctly. Why can't we just take over Israel and make it a Christian nation?
To pray on the Temple Mount? About half. What percentage of Israelis support the construction of the third temple? Around 30%. What percentage of Israelis support the naming of a Messiah? Probably a much smaller percentage.
What percent of evangelicals and their loyalty to Israel are informed by a dispensationalist view of theology, which would be categorized as sort of an end times section of the biblical narrative existing? That's accessible, by the way. You know what I mean? He's taken these particulars from Andrew's argument and not looking at the holistic view of everything included. Honestly, the prompt of this debate was not in Andrew's favor, by the way, because in examining the problem of Christianity and its view on Zionism, you have to be able to either grant general Christianity, heterodox included, or you have to get specific with a specific Christian view, like focus in on evangelicalism or orthodoxy. Or what? Then it becomes two debates, though. Then it's like, is Zionism religious or political in line with Christianity? You have to, you have to be able to say what view, what's Christianity. Then it's a secondary debate on what Christianity is. But that'll get lost. Nobody's going to listen to that, honestly, or that's not what they were there for. So it's a difficult task because Andrew would have to get his opponent to lock in on what true Christianity is first. Which, honestly, that's an approach I would take. I would say before we know whether Christianity is justified in some sort of political or religious theological view of Zionism, we have to know what it is my opponent is holding as Christian. Does it include anybody with the name who uses the name? Does it include Orthodox? Is it Catholicism? Is it Protestant? Is it Mormon? And then if he's making the affirmative that we should support this, he's got to make the position from his own Christian paradigm and isolate what that is.
Percentage, and even those who agree with the general idea wouldn't agree among themselves.
Holistic views are the kryptonite of evangelism. Yeah, and everything else, Hunk, I think. Kunk.
Because there are lots of different groups with different beliefs. Andrew, however, lumps some of these things together. He lumps together the goal of constructing the third temple with the goal of naming a Messiah. I'd love to see the source on that. Sadly, Andrew isn't big on sources.
What references should I give you for logical arguments except me?
Trust me, Ortho Bro. So, until we have a good reason to think that by supporting...
It's so cringe. I mean, I hope David Wood keeps using the term Ortho Bro, because it's gonna be out of favor soon. Like, it's just cringe. Yes, there is a version of Ortho Bro that's super cringe. I've even probably participated in the behaviors of. But there's also a cool aspect of Ortho Bro-ness. But even the bad side of being an Ortho Bro, the cringe, now we're at the point where saying Ortho Bro as a pejorative is now the new cringe. Like, it's already caught up to itself. It's done a full cycle.
Supporting Israel's right...
Hunk, I called you hunk. My gym has a hunk. That's why the word. I'm like, a hunk.
...to exist and...
What is it called? The hunk alarm?
...defend itself where
Which I've never set off and tried to.
...actually supporting the naming of a false Messiah, Andrew's argument just doesn't work. But maybe we missed something. Here's the form...
Now, if there was sources, I would like to see them just to push back on that. But the question is, well, if the source for the view that a third temple is in alignment with Christianity, and the source is the evangelical dispensationalists, that, to me, that's a source. If there is a large population of American so-called Christians who hold a view that their concept of Israel and the way in which the Christian narrative in chapters unfolds, and they're making claims of how it unfolds, if you can point to that in America, I think that's totally fair as a source. But I don't know if they got to that, honestly. Harry says, for $5, I read Stephen Sizer and Timothy Weber years ago, Total Destruction of Christian Zionism. I've never heard of that. Dan Town, it logically follows that building the third temple will bring the Antichrist as prophesied in Revelation. Why are Zionists so blind to that? He's also acting like even if the people who were wanting to build the third temple didn't explicitly say it, it's not like that relieves him of the consequence of that people will run with that or support it because they think of it through a theological unfolding of prophecy. He's just ignoring it. No one will interpret the third temple being built that way. La 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 la. It's like so stupid. Is it the lunk? Oh, it's a lunk alarm, yeah.
Formal version of the argument.
So, the formal argument goes like this. Premise 1, Christians should not support false Messiah or Antichrist, ever. Premise 2, Zionists are attempting to name a false Messiah.
It's controlled manually? Oh, man. I thought it was fake. I thought it was just like a novelty that never happens, where it's this constant threat of control, which is fine. Keep people quiet, not throwing weights around.
Premise 3, secular and religious Zionists are...
You know what they should have? Because there's this phenomenon of these chicks, OnlyFans chicks, filming themselves being kind of sexually suggestive at the gym. They should have a whore alarm at the gym.
Working together to bring about biblical prophecy and name a false Messiah. Conclusion, Christians shouldn't support Zionism, especially not a Zionist.
Golden Week says, I hate seeing apologists I like beefing with each other. Well, I know you have a feeling, but the thing is, it has to happen. Like if a beefing Golden Week is basically the consequence of two things being necessarily contradictory.
Don't train at Planet Shitness. Please go to a real gym or build rudimentary home gym.
I don't have room in my home, okay? I live in a tiny townhome. I don't even have a basement. My studio you're looking at right now is in the corner of my bedroom. Just build a gym? Unbelievable. Send me $2,000. No, Planet Shitness is totally fine. There's no one there. It's not popular. All of the machines are great and nobody's on them. I get to go there, listen to aggressive bluegrass music while doing, inclined bicep curls.
This nation with an antichrist
win-win
at its head and nukes, which it won't acknowledge.
Alchemist says it's not a beef, it's a disagreement. Well, no, it might be a disagreement with these two. I mean, this could easily turn into a beef when Andrew sees this and responds. Easily. I would say I have a beef. I have a beef with that whole little mini sub-tribe, I should call them. I'm the quickest to just go beef level. Because I don't care. I don't really care. I'll go hard after that rapper guy. The guy who says he deserves his ministry, deserves the industry. I'll just go full on against him. David Wood, I think you're a total dick. Consider it a beef.
Knowledge.
Another example, we Christians, rational logic, you're not a Christian, should support the Jews, Romans. What Jews, dude? What are you talking about? Why are you acting like the Jews biblically are the Jews today? What is wrong with you? You've already been corrected, right? You're not rational. You're not logical. Oh, really? Oh, so the Talmudic ones existed before? What? Harry Ludwig, 5 memberships. Thank you so much for that.
False Messiah, head of a state with nukes. Genius, Ridvan.
I agree with the first premise. Christians shouldn't support an antichrist. The rest of
should we support a culture that's primarily against Christ, rejecting of Christ, that their culture, everything their worldview is almost definitionally, historically definitionally, in opposition to Christianity, to Christ? Why? Why should we support that even? Forget the Antichrist. Forget the Third Temple. Forget the heifer. Forget everything. Why is it any Christian has the obligation to financially, actively support something that's holistically against it?
Andrew's presentation, however, didn't...
Honestly, looking back at this debate, I think a hypothetical in which you replace Israel with a satanic worldview, like an actual explicitly like a satanic church or something like this. I mean, I think it did come up where he just swapped it with Muslims, which you just as well could. I think that's fair too. Why not just support the opposite? Do they deserve, or do they have a right to exist? Do they have a right to this, this, and this? Okay, should we support them financially as a Christian? Honestly, the consistent position is you pay them equally in food and military equipment. You know what I mean? You just equally do it. Split it down the line. Here's your guns. Here's your guns. Here's your tank. Here's your tank. Here's your nuke. Here's your nuke.
Didn't give me any real reason to think that by supporting Israel's right to exist and defend itself,
For the Gentiles have come to share their spiritual blessing. Stop quote mining, dude. It's lazy. We don't grant your interpretation rational logic. Stop it. Stop it.
Supporting an antichrist. I support the right of the United States to exist and defend itself, even though there are all kinds of groups in the United States with all kinds of agendas that I don't support. I support the right of Canada to exist and defend itself, even though, for all I know, Canada could vote in...
Dude, you're such a liar. Nothing in Andrew's argument was whether or not the argument is whether or not Christians support this idea that countries as nations, even ethno-states, can defend themselves. You're such a sneak, dude. You're a goblin. You're a goblin weasel. How does his own audience not see through this nonsense? So disingenuous. It's deliberately disingenuous. The question of whether or not Japan has the, quote, right to defend itself. What does that mean? That means the thing that's defending it is itself. That means the body that is Japan is the thing that's defending itself. Nowhere in the debate was Andrew arguing nation states, whether it's Israel or this or that, have the right to defend itself. You liar. Look at those tiny little hands. Altervoid $10. I like how this dude said Andrew's argument doesn't work, but so far still not one reason why it doesn't work. It just, yeah, he's going around everything. He needs the argument to be a straw man argument. He needs Andrew's argument to be he doesn't support foreign ethno-states or whatever, whether ethno-states or not, doesn't matter. He doesn't support their existence, that they can, go ahead. Good luck, dude. Good luck. That's not what the debate is.
An antichrist. Andrew's reasoning here is seriously sloppy and, dare I say, unbiblical.
It's not only not sloppy, your response is super sloppy, disingenuous. And if you're going to biblical, you're going to have to then change the argument now, because if the argument is nations have the right to exist the way they exist, sure, until they've been adequately warned about against certain behaviors. Yeah. Until God says otherwise, sure. But now he's going to change the argument.
Think about something like the parable of the Good Samaritan. The Samaritans and the Jews were enemies. Both groups believed that the Messiah was coming, and both groups believed that the Messiah was going to be on their side against their enemies. But in Jesus' parable, a Samaritan was walking on the road to Jericho, and he found a Jew bleeding and dying after being robbed.
Wrong. This parable falls apart. This came up when I super chatted him for subsequent questions. He tried to use this exact same example. He says, oh, so if you're a Christian and you see someone bleeding and dying, you don't help them? And we say, of course you do. But you're the one who said, David Wood, that Israel is not bleeding and dying. And in fact, they have every opportunity and resource without the U.S. to defend itself. That's not the same as someone bleeding and dying in the street. You can't use the parable and say someone's bleeding and dying, but also hold that Israel is not bleeding and dying. You liar. Absolute liar. This analogy, this parable only makes sense if the country that you're pointing to is bleeding and dying, but you said it's not. You said it's completely self-sustained, doesn't require our help, can support its own defense all on its own. Does that sound like bleeding and dying, you little slippery neckbeard weasel? Christopher Scott, $5. They don't see through it for some reason, same reason people think we ought to use force doctrine when it's just a descriptive claim. Yeah, that's true. That's a good reference there. Unbelievably. He's so slimy. He's such a little slime. He looks like the kind of guy who just wears leather gloves around the house. You know what I mean? He just sits at his empty, small little table at home and he just tries on leather gloves. He just kind of sits there staring into the darkness. He looks like someone who buys all of the kinds of things that a kidnapper would put in his trunk, but he just never puts it in his trunk. He just has them around the house. There's like a variety of ropes and rope strengths. He's like, yeah, this one's really strong. Check out these gloves. He has like endless bottles of unlabeled things with a lot of cotton balls and cloths. He's like, what? I'm very interested in these things. I will sit here. I will sit here at my table.
According to Andrew, the Samaritan should have thought to himself, if I help this guy, he might support a future false Messiah.
No, retard. Unbelievable. I mean, just...
No f***ing duh.
Unbelievable. I mean, how can he look at the camera like that, like so directly and be so dishonest? Dude, that's not analogous. If it's not analogous, you have to move to a different scenario, dude. By your own admission, David Wood, you liar. Israel is not bleeding on the streets. They don't actually need our support. They don't need our support, by your own admission.
If I help this guy, he might even turn out to be a false Messiah. I don't want to help a false Messiah, therefore I have a moral obligation not to help him.
No. Dude, when Andrew gets a hold of this and reviews this, it's gonna be a horror show for you.
Jesus, of course, didn't use people's
Your little neck beard.
theories about false messiahs to argue that they shouldn't help someone in need. Instead, he told...
You just said they don't need our support. Premise 1. Christians should help people in need. Premise 2. Israel, as a nation state, does not need American support. Conclusion. It doesn't follow that Christians should help Israel because Israel is not in the category of need. You little weasel. Little Down syndrome weasel.
Jimbob.
Jimbob,
I think
Jimbob.
David Wood has been debating dumb Muslims that they have rubbed off on him.
Probably.
He has highlighted that Muslims endorse the philosophy of taqiyya, which is lying to those who are your opposition. Does David Wood not realize the Talmud endorses the same thing? They will lie to you if you aren't on the team. Funnily,
man.
the same thing applies to the Freemasons.
Yeah, maybe that's so. Maybe that's so. But these tactics are horrible. The problem is he makes these claims and he does it in a video where nobody can counter him in real time, right? So he's going to get a bunch of subsequent responses to this, of course. Harry Ludwig says, I'll never leave Protestantism. Why? Why would you say that?
Told his followers to go and do likewise. Help people in spite of religious disagreements.
No. Okay, cool. Let's help all the Palestinians then. Let's help Islam spread. David Wood, they need it. They need help. Islam needs help spreading. What a sicko. What a sick guy. Jerome, $7. Thank you so much for the $5, Vagine. I'm in Canada. I don't expect another nation to come and deliver us from the current invasion. A nation gets what it deserves. Let's not tempt God. Yeah. I mean, it's just, this is so sneaky and gross. He thinks this is like, he really should have reviewed this and thought about this before he did it.
Now, to be clear, if I thought that by supporting Israel's right to exist and defend itself, there was a high probability that I would be supporting the rise of a nuclear antichrist, I would agree with Andrew. The problem is that when I sit back and think...
David Wood is exaggerating things to humor, not lying. No, he's a liar. He's a liar because he said Israel is not in need. So that's a lie, because he said he's using the parable of someone in need, bleeding, dying, needing to be saved. So in that case, yeah. Yeah. But this isn't that. So he's lying. He's a liar. $5 eek. I met AP at the Andrew debate and said congratulations on becoming Orthodox. He said, well, that's what they paid me to do, and we both laughed. That's a little bit weird, huh? You can't just say thank you if he was authentic. Just thank you. Okay, $10. Are you familiar with Sabbatai Zevi? Ugh. Or Jacob Frank? Oy. There is no Star of David. It's an esoteric symbol of Saturn and biblically referred to as the Star of Remphan. It's a Judeo-Masonic state. I haven't looked into that.
What could potentially make Israel desperate enough to name a false Messiah and start a new...
Paul says we should help Jews. Dude, we already corrected you. You're looping. What's a Jew at that time and what's a Jew now, please? Unbelievable.
nuclear war?
Because it's the same word?
Scenario turns out to be massively different from the scenario Andrew described.
$10 from Disobedient Dogman. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. Says nothing.
What could cause Israel to go nuclear in the 21st century? Probably the same thing that would cause the United States or the United Kingdom or China to go nuclear. Israel would have to be surrounded by their enemies, abandoned by their allies, on the verge of destruction with no other option.
You mean like the woman bleeding on the street that you used, coincidentally, as the analogy for defending an active efforts to help Israel, even though they don't need help. You're in a contradiction.
If things are going well,
Billy Bob, $5. If you could ask God one thing, what would it be? I suppose I would get confirmation on Orthodox being the true church.
and they're safe, I just can't see it happening. There wouldn't be nearly enough support from the population or their leaders. But if they're desperate enough, and they have to decide between being annihilated or massive escalation, then I could see it happening. But think about this. Andrew is telling 2 billion Christians that they have a moral obligation not to support Israel's right to exist, not to support Israel's right to defend itself.
That doesn't make sense, dude. How do you intervene on someone's right to defend themselves? They either defend themselves or they don't. What are you talking about? I'm so tired of this rhetoric. This is what you hear from all of them, right? All of the evangelical Zionists, Ben Shapiro, there, you have a right to defend yourself. Dude, the right to defend yourself is something that's determined in court after the case. Were you in the right to do X? That's what defend yourself means, and insofar as rights. The question of whether or not you have the capability of to defend yourself is the only real question. If Israel has the capability of defending itself, how is it that Andrew could possibly advocate against it? You can't change reality. You can't change the reality of whether or not they're capable of defending themselves. If they're capable, then they have the right to defend themselves. What else are we talking about, dude? You pig snake? Alter Void, $5. I know I'm dumb, but even if John said help Jews, do you think he was giving war advice? Or maybe help in a different way, converting to Christians? I mean, Alter Void, the question itself requires an entire paradigm to dissect context, etc., right? We won't get it. Obviously, I'm not the one to get into that. But certainly, even the terminology, what is Jews? What does Jew mean? What does Israel mean in the biblical context is important, first and foremost. So even everything rational logic is saying is not actually rational or logical because he's just using word concept fallacies.
I assume he'd support boycotts to crush Israel's economy. That way,
rational logic says, again, he just doubles down. Bet you didn't know Paul taught these things after Jesus ascended into heaven. No, you just keep referring to terms and you're not delineating between the terminology Jew or Israel then and the term Jew and Israel now. Okay,
the new Antichrist wouldn't have much funding.
You think just restating your statement, which smuggles in and puts together these two terms, you're making the term Jew and Israel ambiguous. I think that's a fallacy. Interpret the quote as help juice. He was just thirsty.
And I'm guessing Andrew would support measures to cripple Israel's military, since we don't want the new Antichrist to have a strong military. But wouldn't losing the support of Christians and losing the support of Western nations and
Honestly, I think Andrew took a risk going at this from with the cleaver, oh, if I could establish that Israel has even a percent that wants to usher in the third temple and whatever else is involved. Hold on a second.
JB baby, I will let you finish, but Paul in Romans 15 is talking about ministering to the Gentiles, and that those who are appreciative of the ministry in Rome, they should give tithes just like he has receiving. After the line rational pigsnake is quoting, Paul says he is going to bring the money he received to them. It's not a rule or a teaching. He's talking about his travels and church tithing.
Thank you for that clarification. You can't unhear that rational logic now, okay? You've been corrected. If you double down, we're not going to engage with you because you're refusing to be corrected, okay? Jack the Guitar God, $5. Woods is a better debater than this, so the only conclusion that he's poking the bear or he's straw manning and being intentionally disingenuous. I think he misses the interaction. I think he's just like trying to get Andrew and other people who are kind of have been following this to engage with him. That's it. Harry Ludwig, $5. Modern rabbinical Judaism is not equivalent to Old Testament Israelitism. End of this discussion. He's not getting it, Harry. He just refuses. He just doesn't care, honestly.
losing the ability to stand against the endless attacks of jihadis?
What do you mean you said they're capable of doing it themselves? That's what defend themselves mean, David. Defend yourself. I have the right to defend my house, my family. It doesn't follow that if my neighbor doesn't give me his guns, that he's against my ability to defend myself. Game over. Game over, weasel. Such a weasel. He looks like he just, after he shoots this, he just runs around his room and finds all the dark places and looks for crumbs and huddles up behind his 8-foot books. Just does weasel stuff after. Crawls into a jacket or something. Such a weasel.
Far more like
Romans 15:26 literally says the contribution is to the poor saints in Jerusalem.
to bring about what
Well, that's certainly not what's occurring.
Andrew fears. In short,
Is this Matt Walsh's brother?
a strong, safe Israel with plenty of friends and allies, no nuclear antichrist. A weak, vulnerable Israel.
Rational logic still refusing to understand. This is where pride kicks in. Where you get corrected and then you say la 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 to all the corrections. Vagine just corrected you. Harry Ludwig just corrected you. I already corrected you. He's still going, help me understand this, brother. I'm open-minded. No! If you were open-minded, you wouldn't have to announce that you're open-minded. You would actually just hear what was just said to you by multiple people and go, wait a second. Oh, maybe that's right. Maybe my context for what's considered Jew, what's considered Israel in reference to biblical times isn't the same as it is today. No, you don't say that.
Jimbob, I hope to see you more on whatever podcasts. You are my favorite from Orthodox Brothers joining the panels. All the best to you and your family. You
Thank
are
you.
doing God's work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be back. Help me understand this. What exactly is the difference between Jews that Paul said we should bless and the Jews today? Okay. So were the Jews, when did Talmudism come about? When did the modern form of rabbinical Judaism, as we see it, even as a minority in Israel, when did that come about? The Judaism pre-Christ that you're pointing to, like there's a variety of mysticisms, chariot mysticism. There's all sorts of things you're calling Judaism back in the day. You understand this, right? If the Talmudic approach is 400 years after the fact, obviously we're not referring to the same things. Also, Israel itself, the term Israel, is not a reference solely to a location. You're acting like it is. Okay? Say it in one sentence. I just told you. Or you forgot already? All right, you're done. Get out of here. Bad faith, rational logic. I'm not going to waste my time with that. The little jabs or I forgot already. I just told you. Other people told you. It's not the same Judaism, bro.
Israel, abandoned by everyone, surrounded by
Israel's not a location. It's a body of Christ, dude.
enemies, and trying.
You can't look at Israel and things from a Christian lens without including a spiritual, metaphysical aspect of the term Israel.
Desperately to avoid a fate far worse than what happened on October 7th, significantly more likely to massively escalate.
Robert Brewer says the ancient Christian faith is the biblical Judaism God established. Right, and it's a continuation. If you read the book Religion of the Apostles by Father Stephen DeYoung, you will see that historically there's not even a conversion, by the way. It's a continuation. Whereas the other thing, as Robert points out, the rabbis, the Pharisees, or something else, also the everything you see today is not the same. That's not the same practice. They basically rejected the continuation of Judaism by rejecting Christ. It's not the same.
This means, of course, that Andrew Wilson and his followers are, whether intentionally or unintentionally, part of a global campaign to support the rise of a nuclear antichrist and to usher in an Armageddon. Should Christians support Andrew's diabolical mission?
I know he's being hyperbolic on purpose. Like it's a comedic effect. He's just not funny. You know? He's funny the same way Hannibal Lecter's funny. Snaps gloves.
Of course not. What should Christians do? We should support keeping Israel strong and safe.
Why? You didn't make an argument. Why should the American citizens, why should my family, why should they support a nation state that's quite capable of defending itself? I didn't take away their right to defend themselves by not contributing to them, David Wood. That is the end of your stupid non-argument, David Wood. The right to defend yourself is not the same statement as obligated to support financially, military, policy. Hello?
Now,
you creep. Show us your hands. I know you're wearing black. I know you're wearing leather gloves in the house. I know it. He's the type of guy who walks past his untouched pool table and measures, somehow with a laser, the distance between the balls that were just racked. And no one's around to play with them.
I'm a simple man, so I'm
You are a simple man. You are a simple man.
inclined to support people who are surrounded by jihadis just because I
Oh no, show pictures of jihadis.
don't want them to be.
Look, I support the right of jihadis to exist. Wait, David, you don't support the right for jihadis to exist?
Destroyed by jihadis.
What? Why? Dude, if Israel has the right to defense, the jihadis could try to do what they do, and then Israel defends itself, and there it is. It's just, right? Where in Andrew's argument did he say Israel shouldn't be able to use what it has on its own resources to defend itself? I mean, it's such a clear straw man. I honestly don't understand how. Maybe he doesn't pass this through his friends, you know? Maybe he doesn't send this over to the squeaky mouth guy. He's like, is this right? Is this true? And maybe the squeaky guy would have been like, oh, that's actually a straw man. He might actually say this is a straw man. Yeah, you should have sent it over to Mike Jones because he would have told you this is a straw man. There is no way gloves. In the winter, this guy's 100% using mittens. He just has mittens.
But since we've got some orthobros watching, I have to explain everything in terms of avoiding a nuclear antichrist.
Wait, you couldn't defend the position or the counter position without a hypothetical? without a non-hypothetical? What? What a creep. What a creep. He looks like the kind of guy who demands to go on the kids' pool slide, even though it's only kids doing it. He's just like, I don't care. I pay to be here too. I don't care. I can have Dippin' Dots.
So, here goes.
And what is this attack on ortho bros, dude? I mean, this sweeping rhetorical smear campaign on even the term, right? Obviously, this guy's looking for ortho attention. He needs ortho love. Because everything's going a little too well over in his camp. Everyone's agreeing a bit too much. So he's missing it. He's missing it a little bit. So this is him drawing up friction so he can engage with ortho bros. Because he misses everybody.
Do you want to avoid a nuclear antichrist and the Armageddon Andrew Wilson is obsessed with causing? If so, you should recognize that entire nations are striving to paralyze Israel's economy.
Well, if Israel can defend itself and it could defend its own economy, then why are you drawing us into that if it could do it
What
itself?
is the suggestion? That we help Israel to commit genocide. This wouldn't be a problem if the USA wasn't run by the Jews.
Bagel people, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have an actual argument. Everything fell apart. His parable fell apart because it wasn't analogous. His straw man of Andrew fell apart because it's a lie. That's not what Andrew argued. If you asked Andrew straight up, point blank, does Japan have the right to maintain Japan in the face of opposition or attacks? He'd be like, sure, just don't ask me for money. That's all he's saying in this argument. Why is it a Christian needs to support Israel but not Japan? They both have the, quote, right to exist as ethno-states. Tell me why I have to support Japan. Doesn't need my help. Neither does Israel. So it's neither Japan or Israel are an old lady bleeding in the street. Jason McGinney, $5. Isn't this the guy who went to prison for beating his dad almost to death with a hammer? Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about hurting big companies, I'm talking about hurting small family businesses.
What is this? What has he been watching? Ben Shapiro? Now you're making a economic argument for Christians? So you're going to sway Christians to pervert their own theology to abide by a pro-Zionist stance because of money? I'm not surprised.
There are Christian and Jewish small businesses in Israel which take
Christian, Jewish?
a hit after every terror attack.
Oh no, the small bagel places. Oh no. David Wood is upset. What's going to happen? What about the bagel joints? David Wood screams as he lashes out at Andrew Wilson. Don't you care about the bagels? Well, there's a little cute shop around they have a great deli. What, you don't care about the deli? It's a family-owned business. Oi! Bagel. Andrew Wilson clearly doesn't care about the bagels. Doesn't care about any of it. There's a great little place there, a little shop has the best Manischewitz wine. Oi. Doesn't Andrew Wilson care about the Manischewitz wine? It's run by a little tiny little family. Dude, that's called collateral. If you're going to be in a war with an adjacent country that wants your land and you want your land, if you can defend yourself, then defend yourself. If you can't, why is Andrew Wilson responsible for the bagel joint on the corner that you like? What do you mean? You don't care about the bagels? You don't care about the wine and the matzo balls?
Because
oh my God, what do you mean? Why do you hate matzo balls? You don't like matzo ball soup?
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
tourism plummets.
And how is that Andrew's responsibility? You know what? I'm going to reprioritize Americans and their businesses, which are also suffering to a variety of reasons. But I'm going to drop that. I'm going to drop it. I'm going to throw away all my priorities and move it over to a new board game called What About Rabbi Shmuley's Little Bagel Shop. There's a cute little bagel shop in Israel. Cute little sex shop. Sorts of gadgets and gazmos. Gazmos. Gadgets and gazmos. Gotta stop that from, they're destroying the...
Tens of thousands of small businesses closed in 2024 because there was almost no tourism. A company called Artza threw a monkey wrench in Andrew Wilson's plot to destroy Israel's economy by gathering products from local artisans in Jerusalem and Nazareth and Bethlehem and other locations and shipping them around the world.
Oh, look at it. It's a cute little ceramic dish. Buy from Israel instead of your own nation. That's what David Wood is saying. Can't you understand it? When your own economy is in trouble and your middle class is disappearing, when it's hard enough to keep a local business that's family run, David Wood wants you to drop those concerns. David Wood wants you to drop those concerns. And he wants you to instead focus on the poor little Israeli company, the candle makers. The wonderful candle. They make a little can, a little ceramic kit, little bowls for your cereal. Protect the knickknacks. Protect the Israeli Etsy. Oitsy. Don't you care about Oitsy?
Israeli Etsy is called Oitsy.
Don't you care? What do you hate people? What do you want to put them in an oven? Don't you care about the Oitsy? Oi! Oi!
John Jackson, $5. Won't someone think of the mom and the pop porn sites? Yeah.
They ruined their server spaces. All of that digital skin, gone, kablooey. Andrew Wilson, we need you to change your views. We need American support and policy and money. We gotta protect the servers. We gotta protect the companies that send all of our troon kids hormones and testosterone. We gotta protect that. This is a family-run business. After all, the highest percent of troon's medical experimentation comes out of none other than Israel. Think about it. Why do you hate people? Andrew, why? Oi.
$5 from Harry. See 20 books by Jacob Neusner. He wrote 700 plus. Gershom Scholem. Ugh, I'm already grossed out. I think I know at a primary level what's going on. How did you get through a book by a guy named Gershom Scholem?
In Artza boxes. Just think, you can help stop a nuclear antichrist and get hand-picked treasures from the places where Jesus walked, all by signing up with Artza.
Dude, this is where you're at, dude? Is this where you're at? This was all to sell your what? Are you? I thought he was just showing like, what. Are you for real, dude? You went right into selling matzo balls? This whole thing, this whole accusation, this whole attack on Andrew Wilson and Orthobros is to sell knickknacks? You are disgusting. It's an ad. His ad. He's reading it. You are a shameless. Absolutely shameless, dude. All to get an uptick. Look at this.
28 views. Sign up for Artza box. Right there. Hey, sign up for Artza box. It's right there. David Wood for the Artza box. Sell a 2,000 million Artza boxes, huh? Fight Andrew Wilson in the Orthobros. Sign up real quick. You'll get an Artza box. Comes with a matzo ball. Comes with a this. Comes with a dreidel.
What? Dude, you're obviously mad. Andrew Wilson is bringing in so much money from support. He doesn't have to sell an Artza box. He's so mad. He looks over there. $750 super chat. $9,000 for not being able to open a pickle jar. And David Wood's all,
What the? We gotta pick up. We gotta get those numbers up. Get those numbers up. If you hate Andrew Wilson, the way to fight him is to buy an Artza box.
what? I didn't even know, dude. I did not know this. This is sickening. The title is Andrew Wilson Supports a Nuclear Antichrist. And it was all for David Wood to shill Etsy-level Artza boxes from Israel. Smear a man. Smear a common American man. Smear a Christian. So you can sell Jewy Etsy gifts? You are sick, dude. Use the promo code DIZZLE, he says. Artza, dude, what is the deal? What did you, who signed this contract? What did they reach out and offer you, dude? Artza box? Slander a man for his position on Zionism so you can sell oitsy gifts. Is Andrew sharing his shekels? Yeah, Andrew is quite the donor himself.
You'll get candles, dude. Israeli spice mixes, olive wood carving.
Look at his voice even changes. Look at those little hoof hands. The voice even changes.
Oh, you get candles, you get little things like this, artisan things. Oh, you get dippy sauces. A little gefilte fish, it's preserved. You get butter and matzo balls. You get this, you get that.
You can't make this shit up. I can't even believe this is the end of the video. I cannot believe the entirety was to puff out people's emotions against Andrew Wilson so that the avenue of fighting against Andrew Wilson and all the mean ortho bros, the way in which you fight and to be pro-Zionist, the way you do that is to buy an Artza kit from Oitsy. He's shameless. He knows he's shameless, and he doesn't care. Now, if I actually thought there was some sort of rigidity to the term psychopath, I might use the term for David Wood.
Don't forget the locks!
Mosaic art, decorations, cosmetics, candy, games, all kinds of things delivered right to your door. Just
look at that! Look at that goo! You get Jew goo. You too can fight Andrew Wilson with jars of goo.
Don't ask Andrew to help you open any jars.
That the whole thing was about Andrew in the jar. It was all leading up to this one grift. The whole entire thing.
New box every season, 4 new boxes every year.
Nazareth soap? You're kidding me! It's not even Christmas! I mean, whoops! We don't believe in that. Get your own hand-stamped Nazareth soap. Get your own hand-stamped soap here.
I put a link to the Artza web.
Oh, you put a link, David? Did you? Look how excited he is. Look at him. Look at how excited this guy is.
Site in the description box.
Look at him. Look at him laughing. Look at, he's almost laughing at you. He's almost, look at his little psychopath look in his eyes. Look at those little beady eyes. Look at those tiny ferret eyes. It's like a ferret with glasses and a yarmulke. Look at him go. Wow. Wow. Look at him. He almost laughs. Look at that part. Watch this. Watch his face. Watch this. Watch this expression you see here. He is about to...
I put a link to the Artza website in the description box.
He's about to laugh. You sick man. What's the soap made out of, David?
Use the promo code DIZZLE to get a discount and to let them know who sent you.
Yeah, make sure to
Know who sent you. The Shabbos Goy would. Use promo code Shabbos Goy would, and you get a 20% off. Oi. Oi.
And remember, if you don't sign up for an Artza box, you're ushering in Andrew's Armageddon and supporting a nuclear antichrist.
No wonder it was his own video. No wonder. What a sick man. What a sick, sick man. I mean, just so materialistic, shameless, empty, sterile. Look at those eyes. I mean, look at, guys, look. Look at that guy. Look at him. Didn't you see the eye? Look. Do I need to make it any more clear? I mean, are you kidding me? Look at that guy.
Do you hate Andrew Wilson? So do I. I hate seeing his super chats go up. If you hate Andrew Wilson, and I hate Andrew Wilson, buy some Jew soap. Oi!
Whoa! Bro. What a psycho, dude. Look at what a psychopath. This guy doesn't give a... He has no ethics, no code, no honor. He's a sick man. That's a sick man right there.
Genius, Andrew.
You know what happened? This is what happened. Just so you know, I can almost tell this now that I'm reviewing it after the fact. I bet you David Wood personally contacted Andrew in advance. This is my guess. Total guess, speculation. I'm going to go out and say that David Wood in advance told Andrew this idea, and Andrew said it's hilarious and to do it. That's what I think. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go 100% on that one. That's what I'm going to say. This is what happened. So it's like he actually got Andrew's permission. That's what I'm going to say. He got Andrew's permission.